Hello, everybody. Great to be here. It is such an honor. One of the first books that my co-founder and I shared was Conscious Capitalism. And, I've been a student of social enterprise my whole life. And, it's just such an honor to be in such a great room of love pirates. Clearly people who are dedicated to serving something greater than their own self-interest and doing that at scale. And I think it's really one of, as we all agree, it is absolutely essential. We're at this critical moment as a species. And, as I thought about what I wanted to share and just hearing Roy and Raj, I was just thinking about, how is it that we arrive at this place? And, we've had this very successful biological evolutionary technology around fear and survival that has made our species incredibly successful. And yet we're at this amazing moment in the 21st century with so much capability and potential, and yet still deeply afraid and so often motivated and driven unconsciously by that fear. And I for my own journey, I spend so much of my own time dealing with fear every day, insecurities, and really, I think that one of the most transformative things that we can do is to really consciously meet that fear and build cultures that encourage our employees to really live a better life. And one of my meditation teachers, Adyashanti, who I've been studying with for about 20 years, I love what he says about courage, and that it is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to persist in the presence of fear. And, I think that on one hand, we're deeply afraid and anxious, and on another hand, we're like monkeys pushing the pleasure button until we kill ourselves. And so this idea of self-restraint is deeply important. And I think that's just an amazing critical vectors that we have to think about how we're going to live our lives. And in the simplest of terms, I think about the meaning of life, and I think it's very, very simple. It is to realize our full potential and to help others to do the same. And when we look at all life on the planet, that's really the way it's operating. Life wants to get as big and healthy as it can and to pass that information along. And so the imperative for us as we stand in this amazing moment of incredible darkness and incredible light is, how do we realize our full potential and help others to do the same? So, my own personal journey a little bit with that, as a student of social enterprise, with Thrive Market very specifically, we democratize access to healthy living. And for the first time in history, you can get organic groceries delivered to your home at the same price as conventional equivalents for free. And we do that by buying directly from brands. We cut out all the middlemen in the supply chain. We treat our brands well, use 100% post-consumer recycled packaging. We're going to be the first e-commerce company to go zero waste to landfill later this year. And we use a membership model, $60 a year. Instead of making money on the products themselves, we break even and charge $60 a year. And then for every paid membership, we give a membership away to a family in need. And, it's been a wild ride. 4 years ago was one employee in my house. We worked out of the back of a church. We're over 600 employees today. We've raised over $180 million in the last 3 years. And, the start of the business was very rocky. We were rejected by all the top VC firms in LA, San Francisco, and New York. And, my co-founder and I have both started and sold businesses. And ultimately was the best thing that ever happened to us because it forced us to double down on building a stakeholder-driven business. And the first $10 million of capital that we raised came from mega influencers. So, Wellness Mama, a mom of 6 in Kentucky with 6 million unique visitors a month, or Dr. Mark Hyman with 2 million unique visitors a month, or my friend Rich Roll, who's here. These folks have been our stakeholders. And they contributed the first capital to us because they understood the problem. They would hear from their communities that we want to live a healthier lifestyle, but we can't afford to do it, or we're not near a health food store. And that pivot for us in bringing this amazing coalition of influencers in as investors has just put us on a rocket ship. And as a student of media and communication, I always think about how do we get our message out? And I think the era of a monolithic brand is dead, and that people don't trust their traditional sources anymore. And the ability for a brand to communicate at scale in a highly fragmented 21st century media economy takes a lot of courage, and it takes flexibility, and you have to flex your brand into the channel that you're speaking through. And when we're talking with Food Babe, there's a more activist tone. When we're talking with Rich Roll, there's a particular tone. And these are the types of, we're true to our core values, but that competency that we've been developing has propelled our business and allowed us to do some very interesting things as a business, but then also in some advocacy work. And the mission of the business is something that's very personal to me. I grew up really poor with a single mom, Latino immigrants, here illegally for 8 years as a child, and saw how hard she worked to make healthy choices. And it just always seemed crazy to me that food with lots of chemicals and processing costs less than food with no chemicals and processing. It's just, completely backwards. And, there were times as a child where I'd spend months, living on rice or some, bread that my mother would make. And so, a lot of survival trauma very early on and a lot of interest in food. And when my mother remarried, my stepfather was running a food co-op out of a little hippie commune in Ojai, California. And so I've seen the roots of the food industry from, the OG alternative, wheatgrass enema, chakras, crystal clearing, sprouting, that's the natural product industry comes very much from a very alternative space. And what's exciting is that it's going mainstream. And that it doesn't matter who you are or where you live or what you believe or what the color of your skin is. People want to feel good in their bodies. They want the same thing for their children. And, I've been looking for an organizing principle that transcends ideology my whole life. After I went to college, I started a couple nonprofits. I shut my campus down a dozen times. It was the same 1,000 people showing up to rallies. Over the hill, Silicon Valley was going on. I dropped out of school, started my first educational software company, teaching children how to read, was lucky enough to sell the business at a great time, and have had all sorts of great failures, AKA learning experiences along the way, and have always thought about food as a really powerful entryway to have a conversation at scale. And I think it's a really interesting. I'm a student of history, as I'm sure many of you are, and you think about where we are and how we got here. We've been here for about 200,000 years on the planet, and for the vast majority of that time, we've been hunter-gatherers, moving from place to place, harvesting the fruits of the land. And less than 1 billion of us on the planet. And then about 5,000 years ago, something very important happened, which was we started to produce agriculture for the first time at real scale. And that caused us to build towns, which then became cities, and commerce and trade. And the birth of our modern civilization is born on the capability of our production of agriculture. And so, we have 1 billion of us at the birth of Jesus Christ, and then 2.5 billion of us at World War II. And then 70 years later to present day, we're at over 7 billion people on the planet. And the challenges that we face that we all see. And that is all made possible and facilitated by industrial agriculture. And so the hopes and the dreams that we live and the fears that we deal with, these devices that we're glued to, all come from this core capability. And so this amazing thing that has caused us to be so successful as a species is now poised to take us down. We spend $300 billion a year just on diabetes-related illnesses in this country alone, as one of several major lifestyle diseases. And conventional agriculture is the second largest contributor of greenhouse gases. So it's incumbent upon us to change the way we produce, distribute, market, and consume food. And it has been an absolute adventure of a lifetime to be part of this journey. Obviously John Mackey is one of the leaders of this conversation as well, and I think pulled off a brilliant move with Amazon. And I think it's a fabulous thing that billions of dollars are coming into the organic industry. And I think it's a really exciting time in the food space, and it's absolutely essential. There are studies coming out showing that we have maybe 60, 65 harvests left on the planet with the way that we are destroying topsoil. And there are studies also showing that when we build healthy topsoil, we can sequester and draw down carbon. And so this core thing that most of us don't think about, we think that food comes from the grocery store. And where does it actually come from? And how is it made? And I think that one of the most important things that we have to do is to build businesses that create positive externalities. We're in a time where we've been incredibly successful and generated incredible concentrations of wealth and leverage and scale facilitated by technology and agriculture, but it's through all of these negative externalities. And so the job for us is to build businesses that create positive externalities and to use data and storytelling to let our consumers know what we're doing so that they can reward us for that good work. And I really think that that's, particularly on the consumer side, I think that that's one of the great keys going forward, is that we have to internalize these positive externalities. We have to make them part of our brand, and then we have to become storytellers so that our communities understand what we're doing. And one of the great movements in the face of intense political dysfunction is that people are voting with their dollars. And this is a great thing. And we can see the disruption that's happening. It's obviously I'm focused on it in food. Big CPG companies and retailers, the existential threat is so tremendous, and it's going to move so quickly now. And that is because there are challenger brands that are doing things in a better way, with more authenticity, and they're communicating that to consumers who are hungry for, yes, price, quality, and convenience, but virtues and values. And so, when I talk to entrepreneurs, particularly young ones, I echo what was said previously, to do what you love and to really build something that has positive externalities internalized in the business, and to make your brand about sharing that with your community so that you can be rewarded and succeed. It is the right thing to do, but it is also the smart thing to do. And combining those capabilities to be able to speak through these highly fragmented media channels. Social proof, at the end of the day, is the most important thing that we can have. You can't buy somebody's referral of how much they love you. There's just no way you can buy that. And so our job is to inspire and connect our consumer stakeholders to what it is we do so that they take our mission out into the world, and we're rewarded for paying our farmer a little bit more money, or for taking care of our employees, or for offsetting all of our carbon, or whatever it is. There's no absolutes on the path of social enterprise. This is an incredibly dynamic time for our species, and we have to challenge ourselves and each other to navigate that path. And so, we ask ourselves that all the time. And how can we do that better? And so one area that I'm particularly proud of, that I think is an interesting case study, is this same success that we were able to harness with our influencer community. We now have over 500 influencers that have become friends and allies in this mission to democratize access to healthy living. We asked ourselves, how can we apply that to other issues as a business and be rewarded as a brand for those activities? And so, 50% of the families in our giving program that get a free membership for every paid membership, they're on food stamps. And it's crazy, in the 21st century, you can buy anything online, but you can't use your food stamps to get healthy food for less. And so after working with the USDA, trying to get them to accept food stamps online, we launched a major petition, and we were able to successfully consumerize the issue. We had over 320,000 petitions signed. We had dozens of celebrities and bloggers and influencers create funny short PSAs of all the crazy things you can buy online, but what can't you buy healthy food with food stamps. We hosted a congressional briefing with 100 Republican and Democratic offices in DC, and within 90 days of the campaign, we got the USDA to commit to bringing food stamps online. And thank you. And it was at that moment where I felt like, wow, I've arrived. Like, I've taken my radical activist, rabble-rousing ways, and here I am with amazing people doing amazing things in a social enterprise at scale. A 2-year-old company has positively affected an $85 billion federal program that touches the lives of 45 million Americans. And thank you. So we're immensely powerful. We're immensely powerful. And I constantly find myself blocked by my own fear and my own anxieties and insecurities. And so, our job as a business is to inspire others. We're creating a program now where we're going to be templatizing all of our advocacy work and all of our sustainable supply chain work so that it's a toolkit for other businesses. And, I think that we're in serious trouble. That's the truth of the matter. We're in serious trouble. And we see the evidence of it everywhere around us. And I think for us to assume that we're going to succeed and be able to persevere with some version of the status quo is the height of delusion. And it is incumbent for us who have the resources to get as clear and as big and as successful as possible so that we can magnify a better way. And that is my life's purpose. I look forward to a lifetime of adventure with all of you in that shared activity. And, I think about money. It's really just a currency of exchange. It's just energy. It's not good. It's not bad. Its effect is determined by what motivates us. And that's a hard question that we have to be really, really honest with ourselves about. What motivates us? Why are we making the decisions that we make? And to that aim, we've created a new nonprofit called Alliance for Good, which is around galvanizing philanthropically minded, successful individuals to be able to save money on their taxes while doing good for the environment and health. And it's a donor-advised fund that I'm personally very excited about. It's a new tax instrument that's incredibly efficient for saving money on taxes, but then being able to do good in the world. And I personally have donated millions into the entity, and we're creating it as an alliance where co-founders all come in to contribute. And the beautiful thing about a donor-advised fund is you can donate money, you can get the tax savings in the year you make the donation, but it sits in an escrow account that you have full control over, and you can then decide at any point how you want to use those resources. And so as I think about my own personal mission, the two areas that I'm personally drawn to are, food and money. And these are very scalable systems. And so I'm excited to see what we can do as a community. And the time is now. There's no other time. And I am deeply grateful to the Conscious Capitalism staff for making this opportunity available, and for the 10 years of work that have gone into cultivating this and the thoughtfulness that has been here. And I look forward to meeting some of you afterwards. So thank you so much.